So we usually save him for our Wednesday ACC breakdown show, but sometimes you just can't get enough of Dan Rubin, or maybe too much Dan Rubin's not a good thing. I'm still trying to nail that one down, but here he is, Dan Rubin, to help us break down Boston College and the game for the BC Eagles this week, hosting Wake Forest. Dan, thanks so much for joining us, man.
Hey, I know we talk offline about how it's like ESPN First Take. You're on one side and you love it, or you're one side you don't want anything to do with it. I hope one day, though, I can get Stephen A's paycheck.
Well, if you can work that out and somehow cut me into it at some point, and hey, I love, hate, whatever happens here. I just want people to watch and take part.
I'm in hook, line, and sinker on it.
Exactly. It's a good thing either way. This defense is phenomenal. So regardless of what the final record turns out to be, hopefully it's going to be around 7-5. Hopefully you get to a bowl game and it's a decent outing for the holidays. But this defense has been pretty spectacular. The Duke is no juggernaut on offense, but they are scoring way over 9 points against everybody else. And you can go on down the line, fill in the blank, and you hold that particular team way under their average. Florida State, Northern Illinois, again, anybody you bring up. So can you help us out with the defense? I think people are getting familiar with Stephen Daniels and his prowess at linebacker, but can you really survey the field and let us know who to look out for?
Well, the defense as a unit is outstanding. Don Brown, the defensive coordinator, he was at Maryland for a number of years. He was the head coach at UMass when they were in 1AA, and he was a very good head coach there. He was a very good defensive coordinator. I believe he was also at Connecticut for a period. He has really taken this unit and has made them one cohesive. Just I don't know if violence is the right word, but they're all over the place. They hit with authority. They play hard. They run hard. They follow through in all of their plays, and really as a cohesive unit, play outstanding. I think Dave Clausen this week said that Don Brown's defense would blitz the Priest at Mass if they could, or they blitz the sideline guys if they could, because they're just all over the place. But that's what makes them really good, is that there's bodies everywhere. They're flying. Their hair are on fire. If you think you have a step on them, someone's coming full speed to break up the play. They have great closing speed, and it's a lot of communication back and forth between the linebackers and the defensive line and the cornerbacks. And when you think of one guy that stands out, Stephen Daniels is in the middle. He's the guy that everyone likes to pay attention to. But you've got a nasty defensive line. Mehdi Abdesmad's been fantastic since coming back from injury. Kevin Kavalik was very, very good, but he was injured against Florida State. We haven't seen a lot of him since. But some of the other guys on the line have been outstanding in that regard, and they've come through. Truman Goodapfel, whose nickname is War Daddy. Anytime you have a guy whose nickname is War Daddy, he knows how to hit. And you go back into the linebackers. Matt Milano has been really good. He's developed. He's got speed, good coverage ability, while Daniels rushes the passer in the backfield. And then in the secondary, you have a bunch of young guys who have really developed very quickly. Cameron Moore was a name that I didn't know before the season. I didn't even think Cameron Moore should have been playing over a true freshman out of the local area, Lucas Dennis. I felt Dennis should have been playing over Cameron Moore. But Cameron Moore has been playing as the starting cornerback on the X receiver. He's tall. He's fast. He's a good lockdown receiver. Lockdown corner. He plays very good with his hands. And he gets nasty when he needs to make those plays. And it's been one of those things where 11 guys, they line up in their base defense. They rush the passer. They rush the backfield. They cover well. And it's been all phases. And that's been something that's an absolute thrill to watch, especially when you consider how poor the offense has played. The defense has been the polar opposite. They are well deserving of being the number one defense in the nation.
And Dan, because of that and what you just mentioned, for your sake and the sake of BC fans, I hope most of those guys are sticking around for 2016, and it gives this coaching staff an entire offseason to figure out the quarterback situation, get some offense generated, and then we see what we have in the ACC on the BC front here in 2016. So speaking of which, the quarterback situation, Troy Flutie, Jeff Smith, they're getting the reps. Your thoughts about the play of each, who you would have in there. Jeff Smith, obviously, he's generated quite a bit on the ground in regards to rushing yardage as well. 3 touchdowns rushing, 213 yards as well.
Yeah, the offense, it's funny. The quarterback situation is complex because a lot of people, myself included, would love to sit back and say, you need to pick someone. Pick someone and build the offense. Build the offense. Just pick someone and move forward. But you can't, and that's not the case in this offense at all so far. Jeff Smith is a truly dynamic player. You can see it in his athleticism. He's got speed. He makes great plays with his legs. He's the team's leading rusher, but he can't throw. Last week against Duke, he overthrew receivers by about 5 yards. He's underthrowing receivers when he rolls out play action. He's throwing it at guys' feet. He has good arm strength. He just has absolutely zero accuracy, which, you come to expect out of an 18-year-old true freshman. You kind of had to understand that, when you're getting recruits to Boston College, you're not getting the five-star, five-tool type of athletes. You're getting guys with one noticeable flaw that really needs to be coached up. And for Jeff Smith, it's his throwing acumen and his throwing accuracy. On the flip side, you have Troy Flutie, who's a little bit slower. He plods a little bit. He's got a good, quick first step, but he has no burst of acceleration. He looks like he's be able to break a 4 or 5 yard run and then turns it into a 1 yard scramble. He just does not have speed, and that really goes back to the fact that he ran a totally different offense in high school. I was talking this week with a former Boston College quarterback who played in the NFL, Brian St. Pierre, and he said when you're running the spread in high school and then you're going to this option offense, it's like you have to reprogram and rewire the way that he is as a quarterback. And so Flutie maybe might not be suited for the offense, but he's the only one who can throw out of the two that's there. So end result is neither one of them has done a good enough job to pick up the full-time reps. And Steve Addazio is not willing to do what the Houston Texans did, which is name your starting quarterback and then yank him at the end of the first week anyway. So he's being honest, and he said, look, I don't think either of these guys has developed where we need them to. I don't think either of these guys is playing where we need them to. So I'm not letting one of them take the reins of the offense while the other guy sits there and does a couple of things well. We're going to ride the hot hand if there is a hot hand. It's driving people a little bit crazy. It gets frustrating in game. It gets frustrating in the immediate aftermath after the game. But such is life when you don't have any healthy bodies and the guys who are there aren't developed enough.
Dan, just because of the name, everybody expects, and I'm sure you've addressed this a number of times, but everybody expects, yes, number 22.
Yeah.
That when you throw down the name Flutie, that guy's going to be able to make 10 guys miss and circle the backfield like Fran Tarkenton back and forth and then make some incredible play. But that's apparently not the case.
No, and it's a little frustrating the amount of pressure and attention that he gets. You kind of feel, from my perspective, I watched him essentially grow up in Massachusetts. Like I watched him in high school. I follow the high school football game up here. I love Massachusetts high school football because I feel it's underrated. The top guys are Division I caliber athletes. The rest of them maybe not, but once you get true athletes on the field with their tools, it's really fun to watch. And Troy Flutie at Natick High School was fantastic. Well, he comes to Boston College. He's the fifth Flutie or fourth Flutie to play there, and he's really the best Flutie to play at Boston College since Doug. Billy Flutie was not going to be a quarterback. He turned into a holder on the field goal unit, and then you have to go back to Doug and Darren in the 80s. But it's a little unfair to put the amount of pressure on Troy Flutie once you see him get in the game and you see what he can do. Yes, he does deliver the ball on a strike. He threw a 66-yard touchdown pass to Thad Smith. Smith dusted the receiver on a post route, and Troy delivered it on a dime. It was a great throw. He's thrown a couple of touchdown passes this year. But to look at him, you have a segment of the fan base at Boston College that says, look at the last name on the jersey. We want Flutie. We love Flutie. Flutie, 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 Flutie. It's a little unfair to him being a 19-year-old redshirt freshman to step onto the field and have the weight of the Flutie name on him when Doug Flutie is going to be once in a lifetime. You get one Heisman Trophy winner in a lifetime at a place like Boston College. And yeah, his kids, his nephew Troy, he's a good athlete. Has the capable to be a very good quarterback if he develops. But it's a little unfair for the fans to look at him and say, well, look at the last name on the jersey. He's a Flutie. I want to see Flutie, because he's not Doug. And I think that's a little unfair of the fans to place that on him.
And in addition to that, Dan, it sounds like you're undervaluing the holder. So we might be at odds over that. I think you're just a bit harsh on that position per se.
Hey, if you've seen the field goal unit, I'm going to be hard on all three parts of it lately with Boston College the last couple of years.
All right, Dan, you got Wake Forest coming in. They're 2-3. They've lost their games as well in the ACC. They've gone with a couple different quarterbacks because of injury, because of ineffectiveness. John Wolford was their starting quarterback for all 12 games last season. He's improved statistically in terms of accuracy this year, 68%, 4 TDs, 4 picks. They got this kid, Kendall Hinton, who came in against Florida State, and he's played more than that, but he's more of a rushing threat. Cam Serenay, one of the better tight ends in the ACC. We talked about him extensively during the offseason, 26 catches, 2 touchdowns. What do you see out of Wake?
They're going to be a tough contest. It's actually going to be a very good litmus test in the ACC. Both teams are winless in conference. There's a couple of bad losses on the Wake Forest side of things. There's a couple of bad losses on the Boston College side of things. If you think they should have beaten Duke and Florida State, they probably should have beaten Duke. But at the same time, it's going to be a good challenge. But this is a game where the Boston College defense is getting a juicy opportunity. They're getting a young, very young, inexperienced quarterback. They've been getting steadily less experience out of opposing quarterbacks. And Everett Golson was the first one. He was a Heisman Trophy mentioned in the discussion last year. Drew Hare was very good. They shut him down. Thomas Sirk is surprisingly a lot better than I think a lot of people gave him credit for at the beginning of the season. He's developing. He ran into the brick wall against the defense. There's no reason to think that Boston College can't contain the Wake Forest offense and hold them to 10 or less points simply because of their track record through the first 5 games. And I say Boston College is well deserving of being the #1 defense. It's games like this where you just kind of should go in and expect the defense to dominate, expect them to cover the right players, expect the safeties to make sure Serenay does not do a whole heck of a lot, the linebackers, and then get pressure on the quarterback position as well. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is. You're getting a guy without a ton of experience. If it's Wolford, he only has 1 year, and his brother's on Boston College. So, I mean, you should be able to know the scouting report off of him based off of dinner time at the Wolford residence. But at the same time, when you're looking at the backup and you're looking at the backup situation, there's no reason why Boston College fans can't feel confident going into this game with the defense.
Dan Rubin joining us from BC Interruption, joins us most Wednesday nights for ACC Breakdown as well. Dan, it's always a good time. Thanks for the breakdown, man.
Hey, glad to be here.